at the shrimp table at the GA. Other statewide races, McCheese, my mayor, and who, again, did a hell of a job as Cumberland mayor, despite his being a member of the Democratic Party. When it came to actual hands-on administration, I was always very impressed as someone who's lived in town for years. He crushes, my other big loser of the week, crushes Catherine Chafee Taylor. Just to which my second plea for how can we miss you if you won't go away has to go out to Catherine Chafee Taylor, who managed, to give up 7,000 votes in a primary to someone who has always been, I think, a well-meaning but a fringe candidate, and then managed in her own way to promote Democratic politics. You know what it seemed like? It seemed like she desperately wanted to be part of the in crowd. There's a shot that I ran on my Facebook page for a few weeks where she's kind of like, there was a Sierra Club endorsement, and there were a bunch of retail Democrats up front, and it was almost, she was like photobombing it to try and get into. See, I could be part of the kids club too. I want to be one of the cool kids. I don't, again, Rob Paquin was on the show a few weeks ago. Great guy. I think in large part responsible for the sort of rebirth of Republican retail politics at the ground floor level. What was the movie Baby Steps? I think you have to give certain people in that party credit for taking those baby steps. Mark Distorian was another gentleman who, did the Lord's work in trying to build up retail politics on the Republican level. But how does Catherine Chafee Taylor even get to the point where she can have pictures of Gina Raimondo on her website? So again, how can we miss you if you won't go away? How did McKee overcome the Democratic Party intransigence to him because he is supposedly anti-teacher, which of course is ridiculous.
I think the more off-putting thing to me, which is, I would think that you have actually more sway as mayor of Cumberland over a number of issues than you do as the powerless lieutenant governor, which is basically a glorified bully pulpit. You have actually no real sway over what happens in the legislature in Rhode Island. I think as a mayor, you're a mayor of, you're part of the coalition of cities and towns. You have kind of this network already built up that you can use to affect legislation on the state level. I think if he probably would have been better served to stay mayor of Cumberland and use that to get into the, to get any items into the legislature that he was looking for.
Well, I quite frankly, in retrospect, wish he'd run for governor, because we're at a moment in this state's history where clearly the mayors have to take over the state.
Yeah,
if there was ever a time for mayors to come together, love some of them or hate some of them, they're really the focal point of any future this state has.
Yeah,
because it's all going to be about whether or not they have to reorganize on a municipal level.
Well, I think that the state would do well, and this is certainly an area, I think, where Greens and Libertarians line up almost exactly, where we need to kind of wrest some of the control from the federal back to the state and from the state back to the municipality, because just the general speed at which the General Assembly works to get things done, even if it's for a municipality, something as simple as a charter change. We have to take some of that power back to the more flexible and speedy governments that our municipal governments are designed to be,
right.
Which is exactly, what their strengths are as small local entities. Is we can see problems coming faster than you can on the state level, but in a lot of cases that speed and flexibility is hampered by state regulation, because that's the way we've done it. We've taken more control away from municipalities and given it to the state, and I think that's happened largely on the federal level, where we've taken a lot of things that used to be in state control and handed that over to the federal level. I think we definitely, mayors are going to be the future of this this state, because that's where you can have a bold vision and a bold idea and get enough people behind that idea on a local level to really get some positive change done, for sure.
Look down the list. And some of these people my listeners are going to hate, some of them are going to love because of their politics ostensibly. Grebian in Pawtucket has managed to do, and I'm sure he's stepped on some toes, and I'm sure there's some people who are tweaked, but he's managed to create a sea change.
Done a hell of a job.
In Pawtucket.
Absolutely.
Diosa in Central Falls.
Yep.
Everyone wrote that kid off as politically, I don't know, he just too young.
Yeah.
And yet, look at CF. Cumberland. There was a moment on Dan York's show a year or two ago when Charlie Lombardi, who's done a hell of a job in North Providence, taming that beast, was talking about his employee headcount. And coincidentally, McCheese came on just a few moments later, and Dan York asked, well, how many people do you have working for the state? And he was astonished to find out that Cumberland, because one of the larger towns geographically in the state, has one of the lowest headcounts for municipal employees. Yet I have to tell you, living there for years, they do a pretty good job. So you have mayors like that who are in the fringe communities surrounding La Providence, and you're right, being on really the bleeding edge of municipal reform.
Yep.
Then you've got Providence.
Yeah.
And in our closing minutes, you've got this election, which was clearly the terms of which were dictated to us by the people of Providence. Mm-hmm. Yet they are the financial basket case and really driving the state toward oblivion.
Yeah. I think so. Part of the reason that they say as Providence goes, so goes the state. I think that's largely true, and I think that historically our economic development, social development, any kind of development has been centered around, dump as much money into Providence as you can, and it was trickle out, right? Mm-hmm. Let's hope that it trickles out to the outlying communities. I mean, but Central Falls proved, once and for all, that theory is not going to work, because Central Falls is really less than a couple of miles from the Providence border, and they went into receivership. Right. So I think we need to stop viewing Rhode Island as an entity unto itself as far as economic development goes, and figure out how we fit into the metro corridor of New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Providence, Boston. There are industries in each of those areas that Rhode Island is suited maybe to be part of the support structure for those industries.
Exactly.
But we can't, I see Rhode Island as almost like a mid-level manager. Mm-hmm. Between these larger metro areas, these larger production areas, certainly, like the coast of Jersey, lots of industry going on down there. Lots of stuff going on in Connecticut right now as far as construction, as far as people they're rebuilding roads, and I don't know what the heck they do in 95 in Connecticut that it's always backed up.
But I mean, ultimately that's got to be driven at the micro level by the mayors.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the missteps that she's made, I'll give my mayor, Lisa Baldelli Hunt, some credit here, because she has brought now 7, 8, I think 9 new businesses into the city, half of which are going to take up abandoned buildings, and the other half which are going to actually be new build-outs in the city. So, I'm more than willing to give credit where credit is due. That's a huge coup for the city of Woonsocket. Absolutely.
So when you look upon the northern...
Talking about a couple hundred jobs.
Oh, absolutely. And for Woonsocket, that's everything. Wow. This came up quick.
That's
Listen,
it?
We're just going to sit here and keep talking, folks.
Listen, we need more sponsors so we can go to 2 hours.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Coalition on Talk Radio, co-hosting today with my good friend Dave Fisher. Coalition Radio on Facebook, Coalition_radio on the Mighty Mighty Twitter. In the coming weeks, we're looking forward to a special Thanksgiving show the week before Thanksgiving, where we bring in members of the not-for-profit community, some remarkable volunteer success stories, both in the Cumberland-Woonsocket area as well as across the state. We're going to take a little bit of a libertarian swing in December. Members of the Massachusetts Libertarian Party are going to be joining us right after December, as we're going to try and get together a little regional meeting here for our libertarian and Dave, our new libertarian friend, Dave. This show will be podcast on coalitionradio.us. The show should be up in the next day or so again. Again, we thank you for listening. Coalition Radio, we're out. Have a great week.